Graham, welcome.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you so very much. It's a treat to be here. And I'm going to have some fun in the kitchen. A lot of people ask me for recipes, and I kind of am vague. And the reason I'm vague is because I don't tend to duplicate what I've already done. I tend to walk into a kitchen, look what needs eating, and then turn it into something. And I'm going to encourage you to do that tonight as well. Although you may have noticed if you looked at my ingredients list, I just used a few basic ingredients and then left you with loads and loads and loads of options. Depends what's in your kitchen. It depends what you like to eat. It depends what needs to be consumed. It depends on your, some people like ketchup, some people like mustard. I don't know. So I'm leaving a lot of that up to you. I also don't tend to repeat because I have a hard time making the same thing once, let alone twice. So I'm going to do something I've never done tonight. I've never worked against the clock. I have no idea how long this takes. I'm not going to rush. I'm not really like a slow chef, but I'm not a super fast chef. That puts me somewhere in the middle, maybe half. Well, no, we won't say that on Zoom. So have some fun with me today and let's make some food. And I'm just going to show you what I do, my best to talk my way through it. And let's start out by showing you what maybe we'll end up with. At least this part. I mean, everybody knows what a burger looks like when it's finally presented. And I'll show you the final presentation at the end. But at least for the moment, I cheated a little bit. And I know you didn't, but I'm time zones ahead of you, most of you. So I cheated a little bit and went to my dehydrator early. And made some burgers. So without spilling them, I'm going to let you know here's some finished burgers, right? So I made some burgers. It's basically a vegetable patty. It's got vegetables. It's got vegetables in it, but it is a burger. And there's lots of ways to do it. I've made hundreds of different kinds of vegetable patties, and it's almost never about the vegetable patty. It's about the sauce or the presentation or what you do, but that's what happens when it's done.
Looking beautiful and green, Dr. Graham.
Excuse me?
Looking beautiful and green.
I'm looking beautiful and green. Thank you. I hope so. So the other thing you have to know how to do is, again, I cheated a little bit, but later in the morning, no, later in the afternoon, I made those like 6 hours ago. But then about 3 hours ago, I put some more in. Different, just a little bit different, but not all that different. But these have only been in for a few hours. And now this is what they look like when they're finished. But when they start, they don't look anything like that. So you have to, in some way or another, you have to turn them over so the other side can dry. Because I have it on Teflex sheet so it doesn't make a mess or drip through, or what they now call the Paraflex sheet. And so this is my technique. I put another tray on top, and then I just flip it over, and it's done. You take off the old one, put it in the kitchen for clean. It magically gets cleaned. I take what is now burgers that look like they're fresh, right? Like they look nothing like those darkened ones. How dark it's going to get is up to you. If you put mushrooms in this mixture, it's going to get super dark, almost black. If you put a tiny bit of beets in there, it'll get very, very dark red. You can put in anything you want. Mine, you can see, are made mostly of carrots and celery, but they still go super dark once they dehydrate a bit. So these go back in.
It's a really cool trick to flip it this way. Wow.
You can flip your burger with a spatula. You could flip your burger on that same Paraflex sheet by just folding it over and then flipping it over. There's lots of ways to do it. I don't really care. I like the big quick flip. It's just sort of fun, and it feels like I've developed some kind of talent like juggling. It's a good feeling, that's all. But so I'm thinking I want to make burgers, and I'm also thinking I don't want to make a mess. Mess is always bad, I find. So I start with my food processor. I start with avocado. Now you don't have to, and you don't even have to use avocado. If you want to use nuts or seeds instead, you can. Everything just changes texture a little bit. So if I start with avocado, I'm going to take an avocado. I just cut it in half all the way around, twist, and inside we have avocado. Oh, a lovely avocado at that. And it's always a mystery. Forrest Gump said something about life is like an avocado, right? Anyway, the way you take the seed out is you tap it with your knife. You twist just a little. That releases the grip on the seed, and out it comes. It's now on the knife, and the way you get it off the knife, never from the front, never grab the seed, always from the top so that your hand is completely safe, and you just push down a little bit, and in it goes, and it's a done deal. We can take our avocados. You all see that just fine? Yes, we take the avocado, cut it in half again so it's quarters. And now it'll peel. Avocados are indeed easy peelers. When they're properly ripe, they should come that easily. And we've done it. Throw away the compost. I'm gonna go wild and crazy because I'm making burgers for 2 people tonight. So I'm gonna use 2 avocados and repeat the process. Twist. See, now the other thing I want to show you is how I'm holding this knife, because a lot of people have talked about their knife skills. We've seen a lot of really good knife skills over the course of these past 8 months. But I want to show you how I'm holding the knife. Okay, so this is the front view. I'm not holding the knife by the handle almost at all. I'm holding the knife from the blade. So I've got it, I've got my thumb and fingers as far up that blade as I possibly can. And that way I have my hand on top of the blade of the knife. There we go, hand on top of the blade of the knife, rather than way back here holding the end. That's for a baseball bat. This is for a knife. Now I've got control of the knife with my middle finger, my first finger, index finger, thumb. Almost everything's in contact with the knife, but I'm right over the top of what I'm touching. Gives me fantastic control. Cut in half. Cut in half. You don't even have to cut the skin except a little. It could be like that when they're peeling well. You can get them both without even having to bother with doing separate quarters. And it's a quick job. And why am I doing the avocado first? Well, if I do the avocado last, it leaves the machine really dirty. So if I'm making a bigger batch, I'm going to do the avocado first. I'm going to do one batch of vegetables and a different batch of vegetables, because each batch of vegetables breaks up at a different speed. It just breaks up at a different speed. And so if I want a specific texture from courgette or from zucchini, if I want a specific texture from that and a specific texture of carrot, if I put them both in together, I'm not going to get what I want. So carrot is going to go in separate from zucchini, And zucchini may go in separate, again, from celery, depending on how I want that to work. So let's do this. We'll put the food processor on. This one requires me to push the blade down after it's on, lock it into place. It's not super loud, but bear with me. And what that allows me to do is to get the avocado to the texture I want. In most circumstances, what I would then do would be to take the avocado out, put in the next vegetable, one at a time, clean it time and again. You don't have to do that unless you want to. It depends how meticulous your brain works. You can just take the next vegetable and throw it in on top of that mashed avocado if you so desire. My avocado wasn't super compliant. It didn't completely turn to a homogenized texture. So I'm going to let it go just a little bit more. And this time I'll turn up the speed. And at that point, I've got cream of avocado. So I'm going to take the cream of avocado. I'm going to put that into my dish. But I'm not really worrying about it too much. I don't worry about getting every last drop out of there because I know what's going in next. And it'll be compatible. So if I show you, like, my blender is now dirty. I'm sorry, my container for the food processor is quite dirty. But by the time I finish, at least in theory, it'll be quite clean because the vegetables did that job for me. So if I cut a bit of celery, doesn't matter how big the chunks are, big enough so your machine can handle it. I cut them about an inch. I find that if I put too much celery into the machine, then the machine doesn't really want to do all the celery at once. It only does some. And so I'd rather work with two small loads. Doesn't take much time in a food processor. Most food processors will give you what you want in about 5 seconds. So at that point, I just take it out. Again, I'm not worried about the details. I'm not trying to get every last bit out because there's more going in.
Dr. Graham, can you use a Vitamix instead of a food processor or another tool?
You could use a knife. I think a Vitamix would turn your, I think if you used a blender, you would blend. It would be pretty hard to fine chop with Vitamix more than just a tiny bit at a time. You could do it in a Vitamix if you cut it pretty fine, threw it in, turned it on for just a moment and turned it off. But it would just really be, it would have to be really quick.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's great. No, I want that.
Hey, sorry, I have a
another second.
Vitamix. Sorry, it's lagging a little. I have a Vitamix and mine has a pulse option. So I actually use that as my food processor, just me trying to be a minimalist, but I am eyeing yours and it does look very good.
If you use a Vitamix, I think you're just going to end up with a liquid really fast. And I don't want liquid because, in fact, I'm going to dry this a little bit. So I really don't want it to start out as liquid any more than I have to, which is why I don't break the pieces particularly small. At this point, I'm going to add a courgette or a zucchini, depends on where you're from. And I don't always do this. It's an option. It changes the texture of the patty. So if you add zucchini into the burger mix, the patty's going to be softer. It's going to be a little wetter. It doesn't take longer to dehydrate, but when the whole thing is done, the mouthfeel is different than if it's just celery. If it's just celery, it'll tend to get dry. And if it's got some zucchini in it, it will be softer and moister on the inside. It'll still harden on the outside. And all I'm going to do is what they call top and tail, which is a conversation for another day of why we use animal terms when we're cutting vegetables. And then skin. And yeah, these, oddly enough, the organic zucchinis in the grocery stores here are less expensive and better quality. You can see they're fresher than the non-organic ones. And I don't worry about getting every little drop of peel off. I don't mind if I leave some peel on. And again, I'm just going to chop, but to make it easier on the food processor and to get the same size granules, if I put in big pieces or if I put in discs, some of them tend to jump on top of the machine. They jump around in the mix. They don't want to get in under that blade, under the sabatier, the S blade. And so what I typically do is cut the zucchini at least once, sometimes twice, down the length. So if I cut it once down the length, cut it twice down the length, then when I go to cut the little pieces, I've got a bunch of little pieces, and it's a done deal.
Dr. Graham, I missed if you explained why you peeled the zucchinis. I was working on my
I
vitamin.
peel the zucchini because if you take some of this peeled zucchini and eat the skin, which is edible, it's got mostly no flavor. But the flavor that it does have is bitter.
It is.
And bitter isn't really a flavor that I want much of in my finished product. It's a little cloying, and you can use it. I've made sandwiches out of just zucchini skins. Fill a sandwich with nothing but zucchini skins or nothing but cucumber skins. And especially in hard times, you don't want to waste the skins. I'm not going to, I mean, the garden will love it, or the bunny rabbits will love it, or whoever will love it. But for the flavor I want, I don't really want the skins.
Thank you.
So in goes the zucchini. It's done. And at that point, I've got something that's pretty well shredded. Interesting for me, there's still a few larger chunks, and that's just fine. Because when you bite into a burger, you don't want it to all be homogenized. You want to have different textures. So in it goes, boom. It's starting to look like a burger mix. And in many cases, I would be done at that point. But you can add in whatever else you want to add in. You want to throw in an onion? Be my guest. You want to throw in mushrooms? Be my guest. Any of the things that are laying around the house. You want to throw in some beets? Fine. It really doesn't matter what goes in. You can play with it and see what works well for you. I have found a couple of things that don't seem to work as well. For instance, if you use cucumber, it doesn't seem to work as well because in the warmth of a dehydrator, a cucumber is very likely, if it dries slowly, like it would inside a burger mix, cucumber is very likely to go sour before it's going to dehydrate. You can take cucumber slices and dehydrate them, that's fine. But inside the burger, it's wet in there and it doesn't dry quickly. And in that heat, it tends to go sour. It's not always a plus. Another thing is if you use red bell peppers in the burger mix, and again, the peppers don't go sour, but when they get dehydrated, slowly, they put off a flavor and aroma that smells as if they have gone sour. And this turns a lot of people away. They smell it and they go, no, something's wrong with this. It's gone off. And it hasn't. It's fresh bell pepper. It only got dehydrated a couple hours or a few hours, but it smells as if it's wrong. And a lot of people just go, no, I can't eat that. So I don't want to turn anybody away. I'm just letting you know. But a thing that a lot of people find really makes a burger more enjoyable for them and gives it a little more crunch as they bite down into it. They don't want it to be super soft, would be a carrot or two. So I'm going to grab a carrot. Just 2 little carrots. And again, the very, very top isn't the tastiest part. So I cut off the very, very top. Again, holding the knife so that my hand is almost over the carrot when I cut. And then quickly dice, throw it in the food processor. All right, so, and we'll shred that carrot pretty quick. Okay, so I've got mostly pretty darn small pieces of carrot, but rather than shredding them, which they get so soft they lose their texture, the S-Blade just cut them into tiny pieces. Could you do it with a knife? Absolutely. Just a bunch of chopping. At that point, we have an almost finished burger in our bowl. We just have to mix in one more ingredient. And what's that ingredient? The last ingredient is going to be your choice. And I mean, in the Middle East, you would use what they call za'atar or za'atar, depends on where you're from. It's a spice mix that you can get it without salt if you ask, or if you just buy it on the streets, it'll always have salt in it, but you can buy it without salt. You can add any kind of a masala. There must be a dozen different kinds of masala or maybe more. You can add in ethnic flavors from anywhere in the world, Italian herbs, fresh herbs, dill, it really doesn't matter. You could put in fennel seeds. You could put in, today I'm just going to put in some caraway seeds. It's something that I really like. And I could measure how many caraway seeds do I put in, 7 or 10 or how many, but I'm really not going to measure. Oh, the aroma is divine. Wow, it's so good. I'm really not going to measure in that sense, but I will. It's a little measuring spoon, so I will put in a measure, but as you might see, some of it's spilling over. So this is a tablespoon, but it's a very generous, almost 2 tablespoons. I really like caraway. But
Excuse me, Dr. Graham.
Yeah.
Is your caraway ground or is it still the seed?
No, these are whole seeds. I use whole seeds. I like it, so it's kind of an all or none flavor at that point. But you can use ground caraways, most certainly, and that'll work really well, in which case I'd use a lot less.
Okay.
I would think one tablespoon would be more than enough. So I'm going to take this mixture. I'm quickly going to stir it. I don't know why, but 100 seems to be my magic number. So I'm going to just stir it with the spatula 100 times while I turn the bowl so that I just keep getting a different piece of the mixture. And what will happen is the avocado will mix in with the carrot and the celery and the zucchini. I'm halfway home at this point. Look, one piece got away, and that's the trouble with live food. It's always popping out. Now, can you work way more methodically in the kitchen? Certainly, but I have other things to do. So I tend to be quick in the kitchen. Once around the rim, and then a last mix, and I should have this pretty evenly mixed so that the avocado and the flavor is totally picked up by the vegetables and pretty evenly mixed. At this point, we have the makings of a burger. And as I
Dr.
said-
Graham, I have a question, no question. I know you don't use salt in your food preparation.
Never.
Could you explain what celery does to that particular mixture?
Well, I'm using celery for the texture more than anything else, but I'm using it for the flavor because it's a very, very sodium-rich vegetable that adds a tremendous amount of the flavor that we consider salty. Tends to come either from sodium chloride or from potassium chloride. Tomatoes taste salty because of potassium chloride. Celery tastes salty because of sodium chloride, but it gives it a very satisfying richness. We've heard several times people talk about umami, and celery definitely adds in a bit of an umami flavor as it gives you that saltiness as well. So I like celery. I'm very fond of celery. I'd say I eat a lot of celery compared to most people, but it's just because that's my preference. If I had to choose between celery and lettuce, most of the time I'd take celery. I'm a big lettuce fan. We're going to use a lot of lettuce tonight, but I just like flavor, so I use celery. We're going to turn this into burgers, and there's two ways to do that. One way to do that, I'm going to put the burgers on a dehydrator tray, and I'm going to use a sheet, a drying sheet. If it's an Excalibur one, they call it Paraflex. If you buy it online, you might see other names. Teflex is another name, but I think that's a brand name now. So they use Paraflex or just Excalibur drying sheets. You can use a cookie drying sheet just as well. You can use paper, cooking paper or baking paper. There's anything will work really. These sheets theoretically are non-stick, and they let a tiny bit of air circulate from the bottom, so it'll dry from the bottom up and from the top down. But I'm just using a sheet because it's a cleaner situation when I do. At this point, we've got two ways to make a burger. We can either make the burger by hand and just form up a patty. I take my shovel or my scoop, if you will, call it a shovel. And I take my scoop, and you can do like that, and then you have a set amount, or you can use an exact quantity in a cup or a bowl or a measuring cup or whatever, and have that much to form a patty in your hand, or you can use any of the maybe 50 or so various burger presses that are available online. So I'm very fond of this particular burger press. I've used it for decades and I've always been happy with it. It's not terribly expensive. Yes, it's made out of plastic and it'll eventually wear out. I wore one of these to the point, I used one of them so much that eventually the plastic on the outer shell got so thin that it cracked, and at that point I had to replace it. But that was a couple decades worth of use. So what I'm going to do instead is I do a little trick that I'll show you, because I know how many burgers I want to make. I want to make 6 burgers out of this. Well, I have no idea exactly how to get 6 burgers unless I start out by giving myself a little bit of an advance warning. And I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I've got an idea of how big 6 burgers are going to be. I'm going to follow that pretty much, and I should end up with 6 burgers. So use a burger press. You take some of the burger material, you put it inside the press, you push it down so that it's covered. Everything on the inside is compressed properly, you put it on the tray, you push down, turn, twist, pull. I'm gonna show you what this looks like in a minute. Let's see if I get this out of the way, I can show you the process. So it doesn't take a long time. My sister's a great chef. She really is quite spectacular in the kitchen, and she would never use a burger press, and she owns one. I gave her one, and she still won't use it. She likes using her hands, and that's just fine. So I just push down, so I've compressed the burger, I've shaped it, I twist one time to release it, I lift up the sides, I push the burger off, I slide it off, I'm done. It's
Can I ask a
really
question, Doug?
quick. Yes,
The Teflex sheet, I
yes.
don't know if you explained, is there a reason why you choose to use it rather than not use it? Is it just to keep it clean, or does it?
No, I did it, yeah. Number one, if you tried to do this, what I'm doing right now, push down on a screen door of material, it's just gonna push right through. Second is it's gonna stick to a screen material, but it won't stick to this, in this way, it won't stick. So that when I go to get the burgers off, I can.
Does it
And-
take longer?
Yes,
Right.
it does take a little bit longer. Not a ton longer, but definitely takes a little bit longer. I don't mind, I just make my burgers a little bit earlier. So for me, very often, burger making is right after lunch. Or in this case, lunchtime. We just make burgers at lunchtime and we'll have burgers at dinner time.
Do you generally always use the sheet, or is there any recipe that benefits from not using it? Or
No, I don't always use the sheet. For instance, if I want to dry tomatoes, I just cut them in half and put them on the screen. And they're not gonna make a mess, they're not gonna stick because they're skin side down. But even if I just cut mango cheeks and I wanted to make mango cheeks and dehydrate them a bit to heighten flavor and give it a bit of a skin on the outside, I'd probably use a sheet, because if I don't, it's gonna be a mess trying to get that screen clean once the mango starts sticking to it, because sugar is pretty sticky as it dries. I use these sheets for, I'd say, easily 3/4 or more of the time. Even if I just want to dry bananas, even whole bananas, I would still put them on a sheet because there's so little contact. But it's much easier to clean one of these sheets than it is to clean those screens. Anyway, that's the rest of my burger mix. The way to get the last bit of burger mix out is to tip the bowl. And we're done. I form it, make it nice and tight, make sure it's all pushed in.
Hey Doug, can
We
you hear
got
me?
burgers. It's not a long time consuming process. Does it take a little practice to learn to use your specific burger mold? Yeah, it'll take a little practice to learn to use your specific burger mold. And then these go in the dehydrator.
Dr. Graham, I got the party maker from your culinary skill, and that's the first time I'm using it. I put a little bit, yes, I put a little bit of beets, so it's look really burgery. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. You earned that.
Dr. Graham, what is the brand name of the burger press you're using? Participants are wondering.
Good question. That's how you get ahead in life, is to ask good questions. I buy them from a lady that imports them out of New York. I can get back to you on that, and we can announce it on our site. We'll announce it on the Let's Cook Raw site. I can give you the actual name of that particular press, because I don't generally see it in stores. I only see it online, but you will find it if you look online. You just Google burger press and look at the photos of burger press. You will eventually see a white plastic one down the way a bit, and then it'll tell you what it's called. It's the only one that looks anything remotely like itself. Here, you'll see this. It'll look like that. The photo will look just like that. And there's nothing that looks anything like it. It comes in 3 pieces, actually. This little top comes off, so you can wash the inside and really be clean about the whole thing. That way, this piece comes apart, and you can get in there to clean, and you can get in there to clean. And it's easy to clean the whole thing when it comes apart. Let it dry and put it back together. It's ready for use again. It's not a big deal. You can form patties with your hand. When I'm presenting food, I'm really fond of uniformity as opposed to just mash it on the, like they do in the army or something, just mash it onto your tray. So, but that's just my meticulousness. I want to move on. You ready with me? Everybody with me? Have you made your burgers?
Dr. Graham, one quick question. What's the time
Yes.
and temperature?
Time and temperature. Well, I use pretty much the same temperature all the time. I put it up to about 125, and I walk away. Time is totally up to you. It could be an hour and a half on this. Basically, it wants to change color a little bit, but it could be an hour or 2 on each side. It could be 3 on each side. It very much depends. Did you make a thin burger? Did you make a medium and thick burger? Did you make a soup, like overflowing over the top of the burger press, double thick burgers? That's going to take longer to dry. It depends what else is in your dehydrator. If your dehydrator is full of stuff, it could take twice as long to dry as if that's the only thing that's in your dehydrator is 4 burgers. So it's not really fair. It's to taste, but typically I'd say allow 4 hours. We're doing a lunchtime presentation. You're going to eat your burger at dinner time.
Thanks.
Okay. There we go. So I'm supposed to make a sauce, a cheesy kind of thing. Good luck there, folks. In small quantities, cheese is not the easiest thing to do. But let's see, if I start with a blender, so I've got my trusted blender. And last week we talked about the difference between the Vitamix and the Blendtec. For 20-something years, I've been a staunch Vitamix fan. I've tried Blendtec several times over those years. And now I'm back to Blendtec, primarily because this one was given to me as a gift. Wow, am I a lucky boy or what? But I really like this Blendtec. It has a little shield that goes over the top to make it, we call it the cone of silence. And then, it'll sound as quiet when it's running as it normally does on Zoom when Zoom muffles the sound. It's pretty cool. It means you can still have conversations in your kitchen while the blender blends. So I like it. I'm taking good care of it. But in really tiny quantities, blenders aren't great. You almost need different containers. And they do make a bunch of different containers, but so far I only have this one. They do make a bunch of different containers. If you're thinking your burger wasn't rich enough, you could sprinkle a little bit of avocado. Sprinkle a little bit of walnuts, like break up some walnuts and just sprinkle it into the mix. And that'll make it a little richer. Some people like that, or broken up pieces of macadamia or Brazil nut or anything like that. And then you get something crunchy, sort of surprise in the middle of the burger. It's just for fun. I said we're going to start with a little bit of pine nuts. So I've got about an ounce of pine nuts. It's actually 30 grams, which was just over an ounce. And then I said twice as much macadamia nut. So we got double the weight in macadamia as we did in pine nuts. I got to do something to make this mixture blend into a really creamy. I've got to add liquid. And as I said, you could add any liquid you want. It almost doesn't matter what liquid you add. I'm going to add a little bit of lemon because lemon gives the cheese a little bit of a bite. We're looking for something with a kind of a cheddary, zingy feel to it. Cheddar is what's usually used. And And in order to make life really easy for myself, I'm just going to cut one end off the lemon and then cut the other end off the lemon. And I don't have any seeds to deal with. I'll use that middle part of the lemon another time, probably later today. But I still do have this part left, and the seeds are in there, but I don't want them. So this part I can squeeze pretty carefully and get some of that juice going as well. If you don't want to just do it with your hands, that's okay. You can use a lemon squeezer. You can use a citrus juicer. But I find this works pretty well so that I don't end up with a bunch of seeds coming through, and I still get a little bit of a workout. So I've added some lemon into my mix. It's probably still not wet enough to convert that into something cheesy. So I'm going to add a little more liquid. And it's almost cheese at this point. What else you add to make it be what you want? I don't know if you have a read up on making cheddar cheese and how it's done, but they use a ton of possible ingredients, just a ton of options. One of them is almost any kind of pepper. One of them is annatto. Annatto is what's usually used to give the red color, but also a distinct flavor to cheddar cheese. I'm not using annatto tonight, but I'm going to use a tiny bit of paprika just to make the mixture a little bit redder than it would otherwise be, because it would be just so white. Just add a little bit of paprika. Many kinds of paprika to choose from. Choose the one that you like. This is going to be dry. It's not going to blend. I want to extend it a little bit. So I'm going to take some more celery and throw that into the mixture. And this is going to give me more volume to my cheese so that I can be generous when I make this mixture. And then if I look back in my corner, if I want to, I could add maybe coconut water, or I could add vegetable juice, or I could add a tomato if I really wanted to, but I don't want to. I want to use the tomato as a separate flavor. Put the top on carefully. Always put the top on your blender. Believe me, I speak from experience. Once I've covered my blender up, I can turn it on to any speed I want. Hopefully the magic of Zoom made that not too loud. At that point, I have a mixture that should be something like cheesy, creamy. I'll show it to you. But I'll be quite honest, it's not as creamy as cheese. And the only way I'm going to get that is to do it again for a couple more seconds, and then it'll just be divine, creamy, cheesy. Oh my gosh. We have smell-o-vision yet? We don't have smell-o-vision. Too bad. You're missing out.
Dr. Graham,
That smells.
Dr. Graham, is there a substitute for the celery if you don't want to use that?
No, it must be celery. Sure, use anything you want. Throw in a zucchini, it'll work just as well. I mean, especially if your garden's still making zucchini, throw in a zucchini, it'll work just fine. Throw in a fennel bulb, it'll work just fine. Throw in celeriac, it'll work just fine. Throw in kohlrabi, it'll work. Jicama.
And Dr. Graham, could you repeat one more time what's in your blender?
Able to hear me. Okay, so now I've got my cream the way I want it. Go ahead, the question?
Could you repeat what is in your blender one more time?
Whew, I can't make the same thing once. You want me to make it twice? What's in the blender? Yeah, there's some macadamias, twice as much as I used little pine nuts. I've tried it with just macadamia. It's kind of bland. I've tried it with just pine nuts. It's kind of overpowering. I ended up mixing the two. I've tried it with a bunch of other nuts. You can make the same stuff out of almonds if that's what you prefer, or if you really want to, you can make it out of cashew. I don't use a lot of cashew. I put lemon in, I put celery in, and I put paprika in, so that instead of having a truly white dish at this point, I have something that it's off-white. I could make it redder if I wanted to. I can make it redder. You want to see? I could take a tiny bit of this, which is the juice of a beet. And I could add a drop or two of beet juice, and that would make it very earthy and red. I could take a drop or two of this, which is just the juice out of a fruit that you tend to see only this time of year. Who knows?
Pomegranate.
Pomegranate.
Of course. So I know because I'm looking at the label, but I didn't know if you know. And Raphael showed us how to juice up pomegranate and how to use pomegranate. But if I take literally just a couple of drops of pomegranate juice, not only will it make the mixture redder, but it'll again add a bite to the mixture. And I don't even really have to turn the blender on to make that mix. It's already done. And it just darkens the color enough. So let's put that in our bowl, because we're going to add that on top. I think the thing I want to make most clear is that it doesn't really matter. With this particular dish, I don't think it matters. You use what you've got. If you've got mushrooms, you use them. If you've got something that you particularly like, you use it. Something you need to get rid of, it you need to move it on. I can make burgers out of just zucchini. I've made plenty of burgers out of just lettuce when that was all I had. And then added a sauce to the lettuce, mix it together, boom, dry it. You don't want to over dry it, it'll come out very light. But there's so many ways to do it that it's silly. Let's move on. We've got cheese, we don't have buns. So lots of ways to make burger buns. This is my favorite. I start with a head of iceberg lettuce. I really like iceberg lettuce. It's not, I don't eat a lot of it, but I do really like it. And if you take iceberg lettuce, it's got a core. So all you have to do is take the core and bang it on the table. Once you bang it on the table, take it out of its container. The core will then easily remove. It breaks free of its holder. And at this point, I'm ready to make burger buns. So I'm going to take off this outermost leaf, which broke. And now I've got whole leaves. And I'm just going to cut off a good chunk. Maybe a third of the head of iceberg. I'm just going to cut off a chunk. At that point, it doesn't really look like a burger bun. Uh-oh. Let's do that again. Let's cut off another big chunk, big wad. And again, it doesn't look like a burger bun until I take out the middle. Once I take out a bunch of the middle, I'll leave 3 or 4 layers of leaf. 3 or 4 layers of leaf. I now have a burger bun cup. So I'm less likely to spill a whole lot of what's going in here. I'm going to take it's basically, it's time to assemble. So if we take some cheese and we put it in our cup and we go back and get a burger, magic of television is the burgers came out, and here it is. So I've got my burger, it goes in. I take a tomato, because I want to be as authentic as possible. So I take a tomato, I'm going to take some more cheese, because I want it to be, I'm generous. I got all healthy ingredients here, I'm not worrying about it. I'm going to put my other bun on top. I have a plate right here. I have a finished product, but you might look at that and go, that doesn't look anything like a burger, really. So let's do it one more time and make it look more authentic than that. I'm going to take about a third of the head of iceberg.
It looks
Cut it.
so good. I'm not even like, it looks phenomenal.
Okay, I'm going to empty
My
out
mouth
the
is
middle.
watering. I can taste it.
I've got the
Dr.
cup.
Graham's magic.
I've got the cup, okay? This is going to be my bottom this time. And I'm going to throw in some cheese. I'm pretty generous with it. I can get a second slice out of this tomato, so I will. Okay, I put my tomato in there. I'm going to get my burger. Went back to the finished burger. There's my burger. I'm going to put some sauce on top because I don't want it to be too dry. Spread it a bit. And then we're going to say, oh, it's got to look like a burger. So how about if we use the magic of television? We go inside. We get a portobello mushroom, a little tiny portobello mushroom. We'll use Brian's technique that he showed us to cut the middle out of the portobello mushroom. I'm going to take this. I want it to have some sesame seeds on top. So I'm going to just take my lemon just a tiny bit and touch it. Oh, it's starting to look like a burger. And then if I take sesame seeds, they should stick enough so that I now have my beef patty, cheeseburger, ready to roll with sesame seed bun. It looks pretty realistic, I think.
That looks awesome.
I am ready to eat this little baby. As I said, it's not something I've ever done before, to make food on a clock. I've done it for events, but at events and retreats, it's a whole nother scale, and it's the dedicated thing. Here, it was kind of fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a good time doing that. I hope you end up with something that looks even remotely like this. Here's my burger on a plate. I can serve that out. If you're a huge mushroom fan, you could even put a little mushroom on the bottom, but I find the mushroom overpowers if I do that. So there's my burger.
Nice job. Beautiful.
Any questions? Did I forget something huge? Comments?
Dr. Graham, we have some quick questions from
Unbelievable.
Oh, good.
Do we have anybody coming next week, Larissa?
Well, hold on, Natalie, go ahead.
Yeah,
What's the
we have
question?
some questions from the audience. One is,
Yeah.
what is the brand name of your food processor? Do you know what?
Yeah, my food processor is here. I'm not in my own kitchen. Like, this is why I say I'm really like, I'm stressing a bit. Yeah, it's not my kitchen. It's not my tools. I'm not even in a kitchen. I moved a kitchen table into the dining area and worked off of that.
It's
'Cause the
worked,
kitchen-
Dr. Graham, it's worked.
It worked?
It worked.
It does. I thought it was your own kitchen.
So this is a KitchenAid. I like KitchenAid. It makes a really good unit. It's really powerful. It's got 2 speeds. It's got a fair number of checks and balances so that you don't make stupid errors. but the top that keeps it from, keeps it completely closed, and so stuff doesn't jump out. In unpacking the box, I couldn't even see that piece. And as I'm taking pieces out of the box, that piece dropped to the floor and cracked into many pieces. And so I never even got to use it once. So I'll tell you, if you're unpacking your KitchenAid machine, be very careful as you do it, because it wasn't really user-friendly, I don't think. Any other questions?
Wow, Dr. Graham, that was amazing.
I guess the proof is in the pudding. I'm gonna have to
Hi,
take
Doug.
a bite.
Hi, Doug, I have a question.
Oh, good. Save me from taking a bite. Yes.
Sorry, I was trying to type it, but I wasn't quick enough. I'm sorry, but I missed the beginning of the broadcast. Where can I find the ingredients for the burger bun, please?
Right on the Let's Cook Raw site.
On Let's Cook site.
Yep, if you go right to the site, we broke it down into burger, cheese, and buns. So you can see the separate ingredients for each part.
Thank you. It looks delicious.
It is. It's really good. It's my dinner tonight.
It's so creative, Dr. Graham. I just, that was my dream to have you on the show.
This
I'm
one's for
so
you,
grateful.
Marissa.
Yes, I'm so grateful. This Thanksgiving, my dream came true, and you didn't disappoint us. And
Thank you.
I'm on the
Thank you.
side of watching and saying I love all the tricks. I love those cup creations and mushroom look and everything.
It
To
looks
me,
pretty
it just
real.
yeah, we
It's a
all
little
have to be.
scary, real. I mean,
Yes, we all have to be creative and so basically creative with our foods to please ourselves, and you definitely did the trick, Dr. Graham.
I want to be really clear. I love banana just for banana. I don't have to turn it into a banana split. But I like banana splits when I was a kid, so I'm perfectly willing to make a banana split. Or I like burgers. I enjoy even as a kid, I always loved eating burgers. And so it's a presentation style that I'm happy to duplicate with raw vegan food. But I'm also perfectly happy to make things that don't look like anything from the cooked world memory days, and just either eat the food as is or turn it into something that really has no name because there's nothing like it in cooked food. It doesn't have to be a memory of cooked food, a duplicate, and people say, well, yeah, that looks like a burger, but it's really not. And well, no, it's really not supposed to be a meat burger that's going to hurt you. But I can get a lot of those textures and flavors by using the right spices. Use allspice or whatever you need to use in order to get the flavor just the way you want it.
All right.
So I could take a picture.
Dr. Doug, I just want to say that I'm a brand new vegan from this year, and I've just discovered this raw vegan side of everything, and I'm inspired, and the first thing that I'm going to buy is this dehydrator. So thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome. I prefer my burger to have a lettuce slice. So, a cucumber slice. So we're going to add a cucumber slice to both burgers.
Wow, while Dr. Graham is creating his own personal burger, I want to.
Yeah, mine has to have cucumber in it.
Yes, I want to thank all of you to being here today, supporting that movement. Dr. Graham, that was such an entertainment to watch you and cook with you and be here. And I hope you guys come back. We do the show every week on Sundays. And next week we have Bella Payne, Chef Bella Payne. She will be preparing detox food. So after your Thanksgiving, after your burgers for Thanksgiving. Wow, Dr. Graham. Yes, you can detox a little bit next weekend. And so Bella have been.
Oh.
Oh.
This is good.
Good.
Sounds right.
It's always good. It's always good to like your own food.
Wow, this is great. I wasn't actually hoping it would be as good as it is. I have to raise my expectations.
Well, Dr. Graham, I'm sure that Grant is standing there and salivating. Maybe you can share it with him.
Sorry to interrupt, but when you put
I'm
that
not sharing.
hello,
Interrupt.
can everyone hear me? Hey, no, sorry to interrupt, but when you put the cucumber slice in the burger, it reminded me of like how celebrities nowadays are like, get the Dunkin' Donuts order, like get the XYZ order, because this is how I get it, or like get the Big Mac #2, and it's like get the Doug burger with like a huge cucumber slice in your raw burger.
That's right. All right. Well, that's
It looks
looking amazing,
delicious.
Dr. Graham. Come on, we cannot eat it right now. Let me finish so I can go eat my own.
Let's
Can
eat.
Can we get Grant's opinion as well, please?
Yeah, Grant, can you have a bite?
Of the same burger?
Well, the same or the other one, it doesn't matter. The ingredients
know
are the
what?
same.
Grant and I are pretty close. I'm willing to share a burger with Grant. We'll see if he says that it's edible.
I'm not so sure. I don't know. I've had some pretty good burgers by you, Doug.
Yeah, this is quite different. Take that bite.
Yeah, it's a good
It's
bite.
gotta be that bite.
I didn't want to eat
The whole thing right up to your index finger. For sure.
Just don't bite your
You gotta
finger.
get mushroom. This is gonna take a minute. This might take a minute. It's not a quick,
He's
it's not a
ready
quick
to run.
response food.
He's ready to run.
We'll know if it's any good, because if it was really any good at all, he would take a second bite.
Grant, we need testimonial on the website.
And I'm
How's that
guessing
burger
it's
taste?
not that good because he hasn't gone back for a second bite. So maybe it's not that good after all.
That's really amazing, Doug. That's really incredible.
It's not that good. He didn't take a second bite. Oh, well, we know how to make more.
I didn't want to get hurt.
No, we'll
Getting between the man and his burger.
We'll make more.
Well, guys, I
Sneaking
hope
out
you
there.
enjoy your burger testing as Doug and Graham there. And again, thank you for coming today.
Once your burgers are done, take a photo, send it to us.
Yeah, send it to us.
We love to highlight your videos and your photos of your food on our site. Thank you very much for having me on board.
Yes.
I'm gonna say,